Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. Thank you for sticking with me for another year, my friends. God bless you. And enjoy the video.
In this thread, post creepy green texts. No general theme, just share 'em.
Posted in another thread, think it's better than just a bump but too lazy to make green text. I'm headed to bed soon. I got stalked by a pack of dogs once. I was working in a very remote area and would go running after my shift, and first it was just seeing a friendly doggo here and there, but later the friendly dogs were joined by meaner and more wild-looking ones. Then I realized the same dogs would be in roughly the same places each night, and a couple started to run short distances with me then break off. When I started to get spooked and changed my route, they followed. So I started running in the cardio room, a trailer with a couple treadmills, an elliptical, and a rowing machine, and they started hanging around the camp. Spookiest moment was leaving my trailer to piss one night and seeing one of the friendly ones waiting. I made baby talk and tried to let her, but each time I got close she backed away. Then I saw another dog under a trailer the direction she kept backing up in, and ran back to my own trailer. Heard running, clicking nails on the walkways between trailers, and a little scratching outside the door. I pissed in a bottle that night. Word had gotten around, and apparently I wasn't the only one they'd been paying attention to. Over the next week plus vector control poison shot a bunch of them and they dispersed. Pretty spooky emo.
That's really weird. It doesn't sound natural.
It doesn't, but all those behaviors have been observed in canines. Wolves/dogs/coyotes using a bitch or a weak member to lure domesticated dogs into an ambush, the stalking patterns, etc. I'm from a real rural area of upstate NY where coy dogs are a serious danger to small children and livestock smaller than cows. Grew up in the woods, you know? I even had a half coyote from a litter my brother and I found in high school. She died this year, just shy of 14. I know dogs and have never had problems with even the wild ones. Closest I've come to being attacked were one time while cleaning a deer in NY and another while in Florida when I was doing a solo night land nav in the military. Pigs and snakes are the big danger, but packs of dogs are out there on the Eglin ranges too. What weirded me out about it is I'd never seen it so persistent before. This was over the course of like 2 weeks, and there were other wild dogs in the area I gave treats to and played with. The night the bitch came to my trailer, actually ACHU, I came close to deciding to shoot one, probably her. But didn't, obviously. I've never been actually scared of a dog, but when I saw the one sitting stock still under that trailer, staring at me, my pucker factor went up like I'd just seen a kid with a cell phone and bino-scoping me out. He was just the one I could see. Obviously there were more. I'm laying on my couch in Okinawa right now with my dog and cat, and this shit is giving me the willies just to remember. I got a couple others to tell if there's people reading and interested.
This isn't me, but my brother who still lives in a very rural area. He's a cop, his wife does day trading and trains German Shepherds as working dogs, and their house is in some deep country. State land on one side, horse/alpaca farm and more state land on the other. Bro gets home late one night and cracks open a beer. Dogs are agitated, wife hears mooing, asks if he hears it too. Beyond the light of the porch the property goes back 100 meters or so with his tool shed/barn between the house and line where the state land starts. Bro hears mooing too, takes cowboy revolver because John Wayne and starts walking, thinking it must be a neighbor's cow stuck somehow. Keeps walking, out of light, realizes no flashlight but whatever. Moose seem to be retreating into woods. Bro continues. About 350 to 400 meters in there's a creek, dogs love swimming in it. Bro reaches creek and stops. Realizes he's half a kilometer into the woods, at night, with no light, and 5 bullets. Realizes the mooing has stopped. Only sound is running water. Then a soft voice across the creek.
Over here.
Nope. Start stepping back.
Over here.
Continues to tactically GTFO until light from porch silhouettes is shed. Wife's voice softly calls.
Anon.
Freeze.png.
Anon.
Bro calls out to wife. Crickets.
Over here.
Bolts the rest of the way to the porch, into the light where wife is standing with two Sheppies and bro's American Akita, a well-known killer of coyotes, coons, stray chickens, and cats in the area. Asks wife if she called him.
No, Anon, did you find the cow?
I always make fun of him for carrying his stupid cowboy revolvers. Now he carries his Beretta, and does not go off in the woods after ghost livestock and Rougarou ops and shit without light and a loyal companion. I'll do another one shortly. Wanna piss and make a drink. Making a slight correction. Before he bolted, bro called wife again and she called back to him from the porch, total other direction from the spooky voice. Then it said, over here. Okay, this is another of mine. 2015, Central Iraq, Balad Air Base. At this time and ever since we'd first arrived in 14, most of the base is basically abandoned. It's like a post-apocalypse movie set. Working as a trainer / mentor / advisor for Iraqi Army / Air Force, and QRF team lead for a US company as part of the US FMS program giving Iraq F-16s. Huge rainstorms that October. Worst flooding in decades, can't see 20 meters in front of you, heavy lightning, etc. Around 21 to 2,200-ish, I'm playing Call of Duty Zombies with another team lead and two of his guys in our outpost on the abandoned side of the base. Only other people out here are Iraqi soldiers in the perimeter towers and some militia guys set up on the north end of the runway. Another team member busts in the door saying he and several soldiers, outside smoking hookah, had seen some dudes scoping on them from just outside the light of our perimeter, meaning basically inside our perimeter because our area lights are out due to the generator not getting fuel due to weather. Says they bolted when he shouted at them. Decide it's definitely the militia guys trying to steal shit and mount up both teams in my section of Iraqis, 8 Americans / South Africans / Iraqi interpreters in 2 land cruisers, 24 Iraqi soldiers in 4 technicals left the other Iraqi section and half each of my and my bud's team there. Cruise around until somebody spots some shadows scooting into a T-walled area with only one way in / out. Old CD camp. Only one building still standing, we haven't been in it before, all exterior doors chained shut from outside and windows boarded / barricaded. Can't find them. Keep looking, Iraqis getting spooked. Iraqis are very superstitious and most of these guys are 17 to 22-year-olds who might have finished 8th grade. I look into one of the main doors, through the class part, and press my Surefire right against the glass to illuminate the room. Thick dust all over, thick dust. Muddy boot prints going from door I'm at across room and then turn into a hallway. No other disturbances. Mr. Anon, what do you see? My term asks. Boot prints, I reply, and the soldiers start going nuts and demanding we return to the office, snack bearing and praying and the works. Tell my driver to grab the fire axe and sledge from our truck. Go back to door and peek through again. Swinging door opposite of hall the prints lead into. No prints there, door keeps swinging. Well, never mind then. Mount everybody back up, call it in as a false alarm, return to Call of Duty and Iranian cup noodles. Try not to show fear in front of soldiers. But definitely spooked. I never had another experience like that in the next 2 years I worked there. Guys, especially Iraqis, would have stories all the time, but that is the only one I consider credible. The other TL, my buddy, tore his MCL a month later and went home. He's a teacher in California now. Said Bud was a Marine and former Army Guard guy. Told me a different story about his first trip to Iraq. He was a Gulf War vet, but stopped in Kuwait, in about 2005. He was on his BN commander's TAC as a squad leader and so excused from guard duty, however another soldier told him a spooky one from when his company ripped with another on a cop. The guy, well call him Joe, went to his post one night, but his buddy didn't show up, so the dudes he was reliving split up, with one staying at the post and the other heading off. Not too much later, a soldier neither of them recognizes shows up and relieves the holdover guy. Our hero tries to chat him up, but the guy is really quiet and mostly just grunts and shit. At some point Joe yawns and is really feeling the pull, and the new guy says, "Go ahead man, I'll keep watch. It's the least I can do." Joe's like, "Screw it, thanks bro," and the guy says, "No problem, I know what it's like to be tired." And Joe racks out. Morning comes with his relief kicking the shit out of him for A, being asleep, and B, being alone. Obviously, Joe is in deep shit. To his commander, and the XO and whatever NCO of the departing company, he is explaining himself, that his bud didn't show up but some other guy did, and names him. The guys from the departing company are shocked, and ask him if he thinks this is a joke. Because that man had been killed earlier in the year. Joe swears he's telling the truth and says they can grab the holdover guy from the previous night. So they grab him, and he tells basically the same story. Soldier he doesn't know comes up, relieves him, and assumes the post with Joe. So Joe got punished but not crucified, and the rest of the tour there were other accounts of meeting the ghost guy, but nobody took him up on his offer of relief or nap time again. The rule became to just tell him his watch is already done and he can go rest whenever he was seen. Eventually he stopped showing up. Okay, so this is another second-hand tale, from another bud, and like the first guy another Marine, but my age. Not an old fart, lol. Guy was in the second push on Fallujah. So while on patrol in Fallujah, my guy, call him Doug, had a problem with his rear security PFC Brown, who was distracted. It was a night patrol and they were close to returning to their cop. Brown was very disturbed upon returning to base. So when Doug cared enough to ask him what was bothering him, the kid goes pale and said that he had seen a figure following our patrol for several blocks. Said figure was 10 feet tall, black red eyes with wings. It jumped from rooftop to rooftop, sometimes 30 feet leaps. When asked why the hell he didn't shoot it down, he said that he thought we would laugh at him. Which was honestly a realistic expectation. Kid was actually pretty shook up, and according to Doug was convincing enough that he thought the kid had cracked from the stress. Then the kid talks about how he had practiced witchcraft in his earlier years, which Doug found hilarious, and sent the kid off to bed. Brown failed to sleep that night and was useless the next day. He was worried this thing would come back for him in 2 days. Exactly 2 days later they were on an off day but awoke to small arms fire right outside the compound. A squad was engaged by sniper fire and QRF had already been dispatched, making the resting squad, Doug's, were the last one available. Brown was terrified, and looked physically ill. So big-hearted man he is, Doug asked the staff sergeant to leave him behind for being detrimental to our safety, and staff sergeant says there were already 2 Kia and 1 wounded and they needed all boots on deck and weapons outboard. Well, within 10 minutes of Brown's boots on deck he was the last Kia that day. Sniper round below the Kevlar.
I heard, the more one talks about them, the more dangerous, as, may draw them to one. So, about 6 weeks ago, was walking back home, 1 a.m., with this person who also lives nearby. We were talking about walkers. We were paused, chatting on a roundabout, you know the type, round, strangely enough, grassy, few trees, a boulder type thing announcing the location/road. This is in suburbia, as I mentioned. About 5 minutes max from a main road. Though at that time of night, there were no cars at the time we were wandering about at. Anywho. Talking about walkers. Mate notices a fox. Acting rather unfoxish. Usually they flee if they see a human. This one was watching us, ever so casually like. It's just one fox, though. Probably smelling dinner in one of the rubbish bins. From our left, 2 foxes, fighting. Stopped fighting when they see us, start casually strolling towards us, side by side. Usually, when foxes fight, they go separate ways afterwards. Then, to our left, another fox. Pacing right down the wider stripes in the center of the road. Watching us. Stops. Sits. Watching us. We clutch at each other and I say, "We are going back to my place, FKN now. I live nearer to the roundabout." Start saying protection spells aloud. Am Wiccan, pagan, been practicing such since I was 9, so saying a lot of protection spells. We hurried back to my place. Foxes watch. One follows a few steps. I hiss at it, hoping it'll do something. It does. It turns. But doesn't run like it normally would. Maybe we were giving off weird pheromones. Maybe I was on the rag and forgot. Maybe urban foxes are getting a lot tamer, I don't know. But have never witnessed fox behavior like it before, or thankfully, since, usually, a urban fox will see you, and, if they pause at all, it's for a second, before the run off. They don't surround you, sit, and stare.
This reminds me of an experience I heard of whilst in the Navy in the early 2000s. Deployed on an aircraft carrier in the Gulf. Logistics role. Hear rumors about shit happening at night on the flight deck. Those boys work hard and pull long hours up there. Figure it was stress related and brushed off the rumors. A couple weeks go by. Eating in the canteen at the end of my shift, about 2 a.m. Seated in a corner but can see out the door a little ways and don't the hall. Down the hall and fourth door down is sick bay, or bludger's bed we used to call it. Eating my steak, food is delicious on an aircraft carrier BTW. See one MP running down the hallway quickly followed by another man, I don't know his profession, he looked official though, and 2 guys carrying a stretcher with a member of the flight crew and a black tarp over the stretcher. They get inside the sick bay and slam the door shut. I know he was flight crew because I could see the reflective vest hanging out the side. Also, I don't know what had happened that night, but for the next few weeks security detail was tight on the flight deck and anybody that didn't walk around with a buddy was screwed hard by NCOs. I heard more rumors after that they had seen a large bird flying around below the flight deck level prior to the incident, just above the water. Although the official safety briefing had mentioned it was only a workplace accident. I also heard through Toolbox talk that the guy on the stretcher was medically discharged that same night.
So not sure if this is paranormal, but it creeped the hell out of me. Be a month ago. Go to this abandoned building complex from time to time to chill, smoke etc. The closest building is maybe 3 kilometers away from the complex. Main building has 3 floors. All of the stairwells are torn down so people don't wander around. There is one way up though through a collapsed column. Basically a vertical climb via concrete. There's a makeshift ladder between 2nd and 3rd floors, you can pull it up to climb onto the roof. Go there after dark with my light and do the casual climb/pull/climb. Chilling on the roof, smoking a cig. Suddenly hear a howl/bark, kinda like a fox but it sounded weird. Thought to myself that maybe I was too tired and should just head home before I trip over something and hurt myself. Climb down to the 3rd floor. Shining my flashlight around, searching for the hole to put the ladder down, found it. Shine down to find a stable area of floor. See the reflection of eyes in the floor below me, maybe 5 meters from the hole. Way higher up than fox's or wolf's eyes would be. Nope.png. Slowly back away from the hole. Climb back up on the roof. Hear rumbling in the 2nd floor. Stops in about 20 minutes. Wait another 10 minutes before climbing down. No trace of that thing anywhere, no footprints, nothing. Sprint to my car and bolt home. Thing is, I've been there many times without anything weird happening besides a heavy feeling sometimes, and I have no clue how that thing managed to climb the practically vertical concrete column because I walked around the building and there was no other way to get to the 2nd floor. Pic related.
Went hard biking to a forest in Spain. Suddenly a big lake in a woods. Went watch the lake because I like fishing and it could be nice fishing lake. Watch thing near land, like a head. Pull it with a wood stick. A idle head like the really old ones. Prob made of some kind of wood. Suddenly wolves, fled as fast I could. Return other day, no idle head. Ask older relatives about that part of forest and that lake. It has been there for years, even my grandparents knew it. Some years ago American investigators came to watch it and they were doing shit there. Told there were a lot of dinosaur era things and they were valuable.
It. Another from a family member, this time from back home in the north. Around August 2000, a cousin and a more distant cousin were sleeping over at his parents' cottage, and situated in a remote part of eastern Ontario. Basically, it is about 60+ square feet of cleared land, in the middle of a heavily forested area situated by the lake, and a good kilometer from their closest neighbors. They were both watching TV in the living room around 2,330 hours, and it was a dark and chilly night, which might have led to whatever it was to come to the cottage. He said the first thing they knew was odd, was a sudden odor of rotting meat and garbage, and all windows and doors were closed. For a moment, they thought a skunk went off, but it only took a moment to realize it was a totally different smell. Before either one could say anything, they heard a shuffling sound, growing louder and coming towards them, and the odor seemed to follow whatever it was. His cousin tried looking outside, but couldn't see anything. As both of them were moving about, trying to look out the window with a flashlight, thinking maybe it was a scavenging bear, there was a loud bang on the door that startled them both. He told me, it was the most terrifying and unworldly sound he had heard come from outside. It sounded mechanical, groaning and roaring that got louder as it started to scratch at the door and hitting it. He was 16 at the time, and his cousin 14, they panicked somewhat and got the hell away from the door. My friend grabbed his archery bow and a quiver of arrows in his bedroom while his little cousin bolted and grabbed a pair of kitchen knives and a screwdriver. The door was being bashed hard repeatedly, and only after a minute or so, the groaning died down. They sat there, quaking in fear, dead silent for he doesn't know how long, until they heard heavy shuffling and the thing step off the stairs to the door. He killed the lights and broke out the emergency 2 million candela light his parents kept for emergencies and used it to look outside, hoping to see what it was and maybe frighten it off. They heard it shuffling on the dirt ground and heading towards the side of the house. There was only a very brief glimpse as they saw something seemingly long, tall and very hairy with short hair. The thought of proceeding outside to take a further look was quickly dropped when it got underneath the cottage. To avoid potential flooding, his grandfather had built the cottage on supports that kept it about 3 feet off the ground. There were 2 large, and very heavy vertically opening gates made from 2 layers of wood planks. In the dead silence, they could hear whatever it was, clawing at and lifting the gate, and it slammed down hard. Sitting on the floor, both of them freaked out even more when they heard and felt it moving directly below them, brushing against the bottom of the floor, and it began to groan and roar again, this time even louder. And so began a very long, and sleep-deprived night for the 2 of them. They did not dare go to sleep and only passed out several hours later. In the morning, they were awoken by his parents around 09:00, who asked what the hell they did to the door, because there were numerous small dents in the wood, and why they were armed to the teeth with shooty and stabby implements. Both him and his cousin explained the story to his skeptical parents. That changed, however, a few minutes later when they saw the gates and some very large claw/scratch marks all over them. There also appeared to be blood, and they found a few pieces of hair around the place. Perhaps unusually, they couldn't find any tracks, just odd marks in the dirt that were to the cottage, the door, around the gate. The smell was gone, and there were more scratches on the underside of the cottage floor.
I got one. Be me. 10. School was this weird charter school, atheistic foundation. School is in an old church. Everyone is a jerk except the janitor, real cool old Catholic guy. Giant statue of Jesus on the wall of the chapel, which was split into 4 classrooms. Covered up with a towel cause mood diversity, but the towel was almost always fallen off anyways. It's the last day before spring break, so big outdoor party. Lasts till like 9. So it's twilight-ish. Walk towards my car, in a good mood. Suddenly autist out and decide to return an eraser I had in my bag cause good boy points. Walk in, school was empty as far as I could tell. Go towards office, that was the quickest way into the chapel. Hear a bang. Think, oh, that's gotta be the janitor cleaning up. Still stop and listen for a little bit. Nothing, open the office door and walk in. Another bang. Kinda worried now but dumb kid so shrug it off. Walk towards the door, to the principal's office, and hear her talking to someone, sounds like another woman. She must have just slammed her doorknob her way in. Poke my head in her office to say hi. Nobody there. But the voices don't stop. Voices get louder. Banging starts again. Autist mode still on, I run past, and put the eraser down in the chapel. Sprint the hell out, don't look back. I freaked out and told my parents, and my mom talked to the janitor. Apparently, this was a nightly occurrence, so the janitor looked into the building's history. Evidently the school bought it after the last owner, a staunch Christian, passed away. The office would have been where she greeted the church's patrons.
Happened last week at my job. Always knew the place was haunted in a sense, but it's starting to get more active. Working security on the night shift. Only me and one other manager in the entire 3-floor warehouse. Manager is on the shipping side, me at the front office. Mostly shitpost on my laptop all night. Recently been getting weirded out. Been feeling like someone is walking behind me when I'm at desk. No one there when I turn around. Sometimes think I see a shadow of a person flick across the screens, like someone walking behind me. Still no one there. Still happening last week. An hour later the alarms just start blaring. Something triggered the intruder alarm in the 3rd floor roof stairwell. Have to go up and see. 3rd floor has always been a bit spooky, but tonight it feels downright dangerous. Look around. Nothing. Door to 3rd roof stairwell is closed. No possible way for anyone to enter either way without setting off a secondary set of alarms. Mice and bugs not big enough to set off the original alarm. Feel door before I go, just make sure. It's cold. In the last week of August. With the AC not on. I came back downstairs pretty spooked. I told my boss and he said that stairwell is always a little weird in this strange tone, but I didn't push further. I feel like I should have.
Not gonna green text, but here's something. Know a girl that house sits for the more well-off areas of town. She always talks about her favorite one she likes to call La La Land. It's just a semi-big 1-story beach property with neat entrance that had a wood-arched walkway with vines and lights, big patio and the guest house. Naturally that's where the help and uninvited friends of the help get to sleep. I get there and she's with another girl, drinking wine and doing tarot cards, first red flag. She asks if I want a reading, I say no, it's like using cheat codes or looking up the answers in the back of the book. An excuse I use to avoid doing occult shit, accidentally tangoed with the devil during the winter solstice of 2012. Anyways, she reads her friend more, we drink, smoke, eat, talk and tour the house. Pretty nice place, noticed they had some neat cultural stuff, saw tribal mask or two red flag. Eventually we moved to the guest house as the night dies down. Quest house is like a small 1-bedroom apartment, small living space with a kitchen in it and a bedroom. Literally the entire top rim of the walls in the living space has a one after another or tribal's mask, but not like warrior mask, monster mask, think Japanese Oni mask. 3 red flag, shit's getting real and I get concerned since the house sitter friend and I will be sleep there, say nothing. The other girl is waiting for her BF to get off work to pick her up, so my house sitter friend wants to practice her tarot reading some more. this time with a candle and on a black and white cloth she brought that is covered in 5 pointed stars. Alarm bells are going off and I send Jesus a quick prayer or 5, 'cause better safe than sorry. Tarot reading begins, asks if she can read me again, I decline again, the other girl says he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. Readings continues, I'm still sending Jesus some texts.
I don't exactly remember how this next part went done, head was kind of hazy, and not like from smoking or drinking. I've kept her company for a bunch of house-sitting gigs, never felt like that though. She tries to convince me to let her read me and I shit together a compromise of read our relationship instead, would have been a smooth line in not this context. She says that's not exactly how tarot works, but thinks it's interesting and tries it. I think I'm safe, she isn't reading me, all the juju's on her and then she tells I should hold her one hand while her other hand's on the deck of cards to connect better for the reading. I sheepishly comply as I entrapped myself by already committing. I pray the whole time, mainly just saying Jesus Christ in my head because that supposedly helps. Don't really remember at all the reading, I just remember after when she did the same for the other girl. After that the other girl gets a call from her BF that he's there, she leaves and we get ready for bed. Nothing eventually, really comfy bed, cat sleeps they have a cat, in the room with us. Wake up, she drops me off at home, everything's fine. Then a few hours later, I get a urge to kind of feel the back of my neck, or I just happen to be rubbing it, I can't remember, but then I feel something. I check in the bathroom, it's 3 small scratches really close together, not inflamed or infected, just 3 tiny scratches. See the girl days later and bring it up, immediately, but nonchalantly dismisses it, it was probably just the cat, she was sleeping with us. I'm an animal person, always have been, I've gotten scratched by cats a lot, literally had cat scratch fever as a kid. They always get inflamed and itch from minor inflections and for it to be that faint and the marks to be that close together. It'd have had to be a kitten. Their cat was not a kitten nor a ninja that'll randomly scratch a neck at night, I probably could have been more concise. Hope y'all enjoyed that terribly anticlimactic payoff, but believe you me, that is as climactic as I ever want to get with that shit ever. I've seen and done enough to know not to dabble with that shit. Even the most tame shit like tarot cards is spooked as hell.
Please explain the time you salsa danced with the devil. I don't touch occult shit with a 10-foot pole either. No experiences, it's just there is literally no payoff that could possibly outweigh the consequences. I don't care how much my friends might laugh, there is no good reason to stick my nose in things I wasn't meant to.
The devil was accidental, the dance was intentional. Back in 10, I was in high school and I got more into the occult and conspiracies and New Age, etc. somewhat because of girl, but mainly because of curiosity. It all started with vaguely recalling something about putting what you want out there, so I dug deep and just internal exclaimed to anything that I wanted knowledged. Scrolling through YouTube the next day I came across some stupid as shit spirit science bot. I bite the bait and was hooked on the New Age and just into for the paradigm shift that 2012 would cause. Fast forward to said paradigm shift, the winter solstice / basically Christmas of 2012, I got a lovely blue lady spirit guide and a little before midnight of the 24th, I was meditating, trying to communicate with her and got, intuitively from her that it was time to meet my new spirit guide, and all while this happening I feel energy throughout my booty, especially head, toes and heart, and the feeling starts focusing on top of my head, more towards the back, and I feel almost a concentrating point of the energy now spiraling in that one spot, and my new spirit guide introduces themselves as Lucifer. Immediate red flag explodes, but so deep into this shit that even then it took like 3 months or so to really cut ties to that shit. Still have issue to this day from it. I see shit constantly, can't close my eyes without getting vague psychedelic patterns and color, never touch psych shit specifically because of not wanting to see shit. Literally see this static TV snow fuzz over everything now, and randomly dots of usually blue or white light dashing about. Though I'm so used to it, 'cause I'd see a lot of weird shit in the sky before that, I assumed it was UFOs at first, but I chalk it up to spirit shit now, especially with literally seeing the moon move with my naked eye. Once it set at 6 minutes from when I saw it moving, which is entirely impossible, along with seeing, on 3 separate occasions, a star literally drop out of the sky as if it was hung on a string and someone cut the string. Twice with a witness. Same with the moon, so I'm not insane. I hope. The one that is the weirdest to me, which is probably not to y'all given what I've just said. Ever since that Christmas, when I pray, it's literally difficult to end a prayer with "in Jesus' name amen." Like I do not ever pray out loud, but it feels like a frog in my throat when I try to think out the words. It's even difficult to think out the words themselves. And that's about as good as it gets for the weird shit. Sure, there's minor stuff more, but that's what's worth spewing.
Be in elementary school. Playing in school park. My class is the first to park break. On this particular day in 2003, however, tons of kids run towards the teachers. They are wide-eyed and most refuse to talk. A hoofa line forms for the closed slide. It looks like giant macaroni elbows put together. You can't see the kids inside unless you go in yourself. Kids go in then crawl back out the way they came in. Wide-eyed. Every single one of them. They run towards the teachers and awkwardly circle them. As my turn to look inside approaches, the teachers come block the entrance. Principal comes in on her walkie-talkie. Police arrive. 2 corpses of girls were stuffed inside. The kids who saw them claim they were covered in nails. Things get weird after that day. This happened in Treasure Forest Elementary School in Houston, Texas. The school is still open. However, I have never found a news article about the incident. Most people didn't know how to internet until like 2009. I've been Googling for years but found nothing. If anyone finds an article, please link me. I'm tired of no one believing me. I'm not LARPing. The fact that the school didn't shut down for even a single day just makes me wonder if I dreamt it. But I clearly remember kids getting suspended for talking about it. During lunch break, about 5 teachers would walk circles around my class table to make sure you didn't talk about it. If you did, they tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Office. Go." And the principal suspended you for 2 to 3 days. They did this for a month straight.
Drunk dyslexic guy again. I thought of another weird one. It's not about me, but definitely spoopy. So back in, maybe late 13 or 14, I was in a Ventrilo or TeamSpeak voice chat thing, like Discord. Become a regular for the couple months or more that I'm there and become friends with some mods and regulars. I guess at one point we started talking about spoopy stuff, a Leaf of a Girl mod and an Aussie bub, and the main 2 of the story. Leaf Girl brought up how, when she was a kid, she had an imaginary shadow man friend, and she said one day her dad caught her standing in her room blankly talking to either nothing or the shadow man. I honestly can't remember if her dad saw it or it, but right after said that, Aussie Bub starts kind of exhaling as a what I can only describe as maximum shooketh, and says, "Last night I had a dream about a girl telling me that exact story." Still chills to this day.
Not my story. I saw it on /b/ and loved it. Reposting. Brother has night shift. Usually gets home when I'm about to sleep. He always goes to the bathroom to piss as soon as he arrives. One day hear front door open and see brother do the usual go to the bathroom and piss. He leans his head out and looks in my direction. Just stares. Ignore him, but he keeps staring. Fall asleep. Wake up a few hours later needing to piss. Brother still there staring at me. It's like 2 a.m. WTF. Sleep under blanket. Next morning brother comes through the front door. Ask him where he went so early. Said he spent the night at a friend's last night.
Me and some friends at a cabin in far north Minnesota. We're all seniors celebrating our last high school trip. We're all getting high and drunk. Getting well into the night, and I gotta piss. I go to the only bathroom in the house, but brothers are vomiting in the sink, toilet, and one's asleep in the bathtub. Nah, outside. I headed out to the edge of our lights, kinda hoping to spook some of my friends. I start pissing, look up at the moon, look into the woods, and I see a man. It took me a bit to see him, but his shape was really different from the trees. The guy looks slim, no bulky winter clothes, doesn't even seem to have a hat. It's late December in northern Minnesota. If he's got nothing, guy's gonna die of exposure out here. I call out to him. Tell him I can see him, ask who he is, etc. No response. I put my dick away. I wave to the guy, still no response. Crossfaded me is spooked to pieces, and I start backing up. As I do, he waves back, but he does it wrong. He starts jerking his left arm in horrible contortions, like he's having some fit. Only his arm is moving, the rest of him is still, and after more contortions he is still again. I back off, running back to the house. When I get to the door I look back. The cunt is standing on the edge of the light, still staring at me. He covered 30 feet of woods in deep snow in about 4 seconds. He's just wearing a flannel and long johns. He had legs like the pale man's and Pan's Labyrinth. His face is still obscured, but I feel him looking at me. I get inside and tell all sentient brothers that there's a meth tweaker outside. We all look out the windows, but don't see anything. Friends think I'm messing with them. They all go to bed. I didn't sleep. Our heat stopped working the next day, so we left for a hotel. I'm the only one happy about it. Not much to tell, but one of the spookiest things I'd ever seen past childhood.
Screw it. I've got nothing to lose by telling this. Still can't explain it, and I've considered ending my contract at this building, but they pay well. I've got a few weird stories from this place actually. I'll start with the first one that still gives me anxiety. Be me. Owner of a third shift janitorial company. Clean offices, colleges, business, museums, etc. As boss, I don't exactly do much save for inspections and making sure people aren't goofing off all night. Get a call from employee. I'm sick, I won't be in. Okay, feel better, have a good night. It's the downtown branch of a college in the area. Head over to the auditorium/art gallery area. Don't ask me why they set it up this way. Main big room. Where they show off their fancy shit. Down a short hallway to the right of the main room is their alumni club. We don't usually clean that. Walking into said building and see employee who called in walk out of the auditorium and into the alumni club. The hell. Gif. Call out to him. Why didn't you call and say you'd be here, man? No response, but the door to the alumni club closes behind him. Walk over to said door and start to pull on it. It's locked. Door locks from the outside. My side. Door on his side is also just a push bar, so he couldn't be holding it shut. Pull on the door a few times and it's locked. Okay, he's pulling a prank. Maybe you can lock it from the inside. Pull out my phone and call his ass up, waiting for the ring inside the room. He picks up and I ask him what the hell he's doing. I'm in bed. I told you I'm sick, dude. Normal talking voice. Not hearing anything coming from the room on the opposite side. Never mind, meant to call Joe Blow. Hang up. Pull on door few more times and it remains locked. Start walking away, figuring it's just a figure of my imagination. Start walking away, figuring it's just a figure of my imagination. Hard knocking suddenly starts coming from the door and the door starts shaking like someone's trying to lock the door. I'm far enough away that the doors have settled and shouldn't be moving. Bolt the hell out of said building and bump into the only other 2 employees at said site. Only one way into that aluminum room, so it couldn't have been them. I've always felt weird in that building. It's 3 floors overall, with the main being the auditorium and 2 upper floors being basic classrooms. Always get the feeling of being watched or followed when doing inspections, even on the top 2 floors. They don't turn on the AC at night and summer nights stay hot, so you can imagine the oven the building becomes at night. Even so, I'll walk into cold spots at times that chill me to my core. And I'm a big dude, can handle my own Few things actually scare me. But something about this building just seems wrong. I avoid going there when I can, but duty calls far too often.
Be me. Sick as shit for over a week. Head on the verge of exploding. Brain tumor.jpg. Go to sleep, pray it gets better / wake up / deadly silent. WTF going on bro / I'm sweating bullets for no reason, it's cold as hell, I get scared shitless for no reason, my heart wants to escape my chest / this is death.webm. This is for you kid in booming voice, my room literally shakes as the voice speaks. Pass out and wake up in a pool of my own sweat. Not really spooky, just a strange /experience I had. The feeling of not being able to move while awake is terrifying.
Spooked me out as a kid. Be me in middle school, UK. Walking to school. Maintenance guy for the school lives in a house on the school premises. Path I take into school goes right past his house. He's outside and says hi to me. He usually says hi to the kids that walk past if he's outside his house doing stuff. Say hi sir back. Go into morning assembly. Head teacher says that he is bad news. Unfortunately, Mr. Parsons, the maintenance man, has passed away. Sitting there confused as hell, but think that he must have died somehow between now and half an hour ago. At lunchtime all the kids are gossiping, saying he killed himself. Saying it happened last night. I argue with them, insisting I said hello to him this morning, and that he must have died after I saw him. Go home and see my dad reading the local newspaper. He turns to me and says Jesus Anon. Says here that the handyman at your school went and hung himself. Did they say anything to you? Asked to see the article. Read it and it says that they found him unresponsive yesterday evening. Hid in my room for literally the entire evening freaking out. Still not sure what the hell happened.
I got one from a few years back. Live in a fairly close neighborhood in suburban Australia. Not too far from civilization but in a cut-off place surrounded by trees and wildlife. One night I forgot to take out the bins for trash day, so I decide to do it now at around 9 at night. It's a fairly long walk up my driveway and leads up to a small road with trees on either side and a pretty old dim lamppost across the street. As I walk up to the bins I hear the clicking nails running across the street like a dog or a medium-built animal. Naturally I assumed it was a dog, and sure enough my assumption was confirmed when I saw the animal walk up to the lamppost. Now it being a dog in a suburban area, I figure it's lost and call out to it in baby talk like a moron. It pays no attention to me, so I walk towards it. Closer I get to it, the more I start distinguishing features of the thing that are less and less dog-like. The face was sort of flat and it didn't have any fur, or if it did it was so thin it appeared like skin. It was also really bony, like you could see the grooves on the spine and everything. Its back was permanently arched like a cat when it's pissed off and begins hissing. Its ears were fairly wide like that of Gizmo from Gremlins. And despite managing to be under light, it still managed to retain its black shadow-like color, which suggests that it did have fur, as skin would be fleshy or white. I figured it was a sick animal, as if seen similar dogs in such conditions back in my home country Chile, where the streets are littered with abandoned and diseased dogs, although I've never seen one in such condition in this part of Australia. So I continued to call out to it, and it still paid no attention to me until I got around 15 meters from it. Its head shot around and looked at me to reveal really round eyes that were super bright white, basically like staring into a full moon. At that point I was like, screw that, ain't a dog, and started backing up. And this creature began running into the lamp post and disappeared out the other side. Like when a cartoon decides to hide behind a 10 centimeters wide object despite being much larger but still disappearing completely. At that point I decided to back off and bolt back to my house and decided to call it a night and slept with the lights on. I mean, rationally I want to think it was a sick animal, but it had pretty distinguishable features from any animals in Australia, as well as being about the size of a full-grown German Shepherd and managing to disappear out of thin air. My superstitious mother thinks it's the devil or a demon, but pretty sure she thinks anything unnatural is demonic in nature, as she is a cliché Hispanic old woman.
B9. Parents just moved into a townhouse. 5 connected 2-story shotgun houses sharing walls. For those who don't know, our TV broke in the move. Using old black and white TV set up in the living room from my grandparents' place. Mostly everything is still in boxes. We are the last finished house on our street. All the 9 houses on our right are empty or unfinished. Past them there is a T intersection and unfinished planned road cut off by a hill. Found all this out exploring the neighborhood. Later that night. Can't sleep. Go downstairs to watch TV. Thing clicks loudly, so I turn the knob slower so it's more quiet. Turning down the volume knob 2 clicks. On the second click I hear rustling outside. Continue watching TV. Pass out for a little while on couch. Wake up. There's a dark shadow out on the street. Looks like a man. Across the street is a strip of stores and a doctor's office. Back then there was also a coffee store being built on the corner. The man is in front of the convenience store in the middle of the street. It looked like he was walking towards the window and stopped. I came towards the window to see better. He walked toward the sidewalk. He looked like a construction worker. For some reason I didn't think it was odd since he was coming from where the coffee shop was. He looked at me through the window and walked on down the street toward the unfinished houses. I didn't think that was weird either cause I had my face pressed against the glass. Realize it's 2 a.m. Oh shit. Bin. Mom goes to work at 3:30 a.m. Turn off TV. Go upstairs and try to sleep. Hear mom getting ready for work. They have a bathroom adjacent to mine and the thing is loud. Not used to it so it keeps me up. Window looks through the alleyway between our house and our neighbor's house. Kinda shitty setup, but it lets air in. See shadow move past alley from light across street. Think nothing of it. Must be a tree. Hear steps going up front porch. Mom is done with her shower and going downstairs. Hear someone rattling the front door and trying to push a key in the door. My mom goes to the door and screams. She opens the door. Talks to the guy. Rudely tells him to go away and slams the door. Go downstairs. Dad and brother are still passed out. I swear an earthquake would not wake them. Ask mom what happened. She says a large black man in dirty clothes was at the door. He was trying to get in. When my mom screamed he stopped and looked scared. When she opened the door she had asked him what he was doing, very loudly. Mom has a voice like a drill sergeant. My dad's friends have said she has more balls than him. She left angry voicemails for them, but anyways. Guy said he lived down the street and forgot which house was his. That's when she had screamed go away and slammed the door. I didn't tell her no one lived down there. I also didn't tell her about the man I saw earlier. A week later. I can't sleep again. It's 4 a.m. Mom has already left for work. I am hungry. I go downstairs. I'm still a little scared of being in the new house. Even as a kid I liked to sleep in my underwear for some reason. So I'm creeping down the staircase in my underwear trying to hide from shadows behind the banister. I notice the window is open. We don't have curtains on it yet. I get to the bottom of the stairs and see a shadow move below the window frame. We have a small evergreen in front of that window so I don't think about it. Close the window cause it's cold and spooky. Turn around and open fridge. Grab OJ and close fridge. Notice a shadow on the floor in the light through the window. Looks like a head. Look at window. See a dude staring at me. He's smiling. He motions to come to the window. Puts another kid on his shoulders. Scream and run upstairs. Dropped OJ all over floor. Dad comes in room. Tell him a man with a kid is outside in the alley. He goes out with a bat. No one is there. Yells at me and tells me to clean up the juice on the floor. Never see that man again, he was white. 12 now. Sleeping in room. Have nightmare and wake up. Tall black creeper guy is on my neighbor's veranda roof. He's just chilling having a cigarette and a hoodie with a black bandana around his mouth. He's staring into my room through the window. Curtains were pulled back. I pull the covers over my head like he'll go away. He creeps to the edge of the roof. Squats. Waves. Jumps down. Tell dad in the morning. Doesn't believe someone could get up there. I look for myself. Someone who is 6 feet 5 inches could have done it easily. Dad is too short, so he thinks it's impossible. Saw him there 2 more times. Think neighbor saw him there too cause he put spikes on his veranda. Asked him about it. WTF Anon, that's for crows. There's no one on my roof at night. 14 now. Don't believe that I used to see tall black man. Maybe he was just a dream. Mom's getting ready for work. Her schedule's changed, now she leaves at 4 a.m. I still have trouble sleeping, so I usually go to see her off. Think she appreciates it cause I help her get ready like she used to when I was really little. Go boil water for her in the kettle. She likes to take tea in a thermos mug. Turn around at back door. Curtains are open. Think I see someone in the shadows. Couldn't be. You're not a kid anymore, Anon. Mom comes down. We talk while she gets ready. She's starting to go. I say goodbye and hug her. She opens the door and steps through. She closes it. I see a tall dark figure on the walkway. My mom sees him too. I grab shoes and go for the door handle. She locked the door. Shout there's someone there through door. Mom says who's there? Shadow man bolts out of backyard. Mom screams and comes inside crying. I tell her to phone cops. We do. She doesn't go to work and I don't go to school. Too freaked out. Cops staked out the house for a few days. Never saw tall man again.
Lived in haunted home with cousin. It's not too bad. Activity is daily but doesn't last more than a few seconds per interaction. One day the knife incident takes place. Even grandpa was spooked and he slapped a poltergeist a few times. We immediately pack it. I move in with my parents. Cousin and grandpa find a house near a Kmart. I get bad vibes from cousin's house. Eventually the movie The Shaggy Dog comes out. Cousin's dad loved it, gets a dog just like it. Meet it once, it smelled like vomit. Weeks later tried to meet it again. It had died. Cousin says it liked to sleep by burying its upper body under the shack. One day they pulled it out because it didn't respond. Head was missing. It was probably a family of possums that lived nearby. Yeah, right. Theorize some crazy neighbor did this. Years later I sleep over at cousin's for a summer. Cousin finally tells me the place really is haunted. I should have known better, but I wish I knew earlier. Cousin says one day after parents left to run some errands, some black figure with a slant-eyed mask came out from the attic with a knife. Chased cousin around the house. Front door starts to jiggle. Cousin's parents came back because they forgot something. Masked figure runs back up the attic. May have been a dream. Then asks me if I remember the dog. Says its ghost would enter the room and stare at you. It had chameleon-like eyes. You must avoid contact or else it'll control your eyes. Your eyes would forcibly move in awkward directions like a chameleon. Slight discomfort. I remember thinking my cousin's garden was full of snakes because I would see what looked like black snakes coiled up, but they always seemed to disappear after spotting them. I remember on one occasion seeing my uncle chase them, but they kept vanishing. It drove him crazy. He began to dig holes thinking they burrowed underground, but no. Nothing. Then what my cousin told me next made it click. Cousin then tells me black arms would slap against windows. It happened so quickly you only caught it with the corner of your eyes. On many occasions my grandpa would ask cousin, "Did you see that?" referring to a black arms that would slither across windows. I did recall seeing a black hand slither a few times while using their bathroom.
I know this will just add to the absolute mess of Skinwalker's stories from /x/ but I'd like to contribute to the thread. I live in a city with a few reservation nestled nearby, Kokopah and Quechan. Anyway, I live a little over a mile from the Kokopah Res, so I saw some spooky stuff on our street occasionally. 1. Go on walk during summer, when a bit before sunset for cooler weather. Sister is with me as well as our 2 dogs, and we walk past a nearby store with a drainage ditch out back. Hear whistle walking past. Assume someone's just messing with us and keep walking. Exit store and same whistle, exact same tone and slightly distorted pitch. My dog perks her ears and begins panting heavily. My sister's hunkers and walks faster. Call HWR dog a pussy to tease sister. Anyway, on way home keep thinking I see something out of the corner of my vision. Sun has just about fully set when I get home, run outside and put my hands in a dog crate inside because I felt scared for them. Stay up late watching Golden Girls with chickens. Hear an occasional tap or scrape or such, but everything's locked so don't care. Just as an episode switched to another, I heard pussy in my voice with my British accent speech impediment outside the living room window. 2. Go to bed after working on homework around 1-ish. Lay in bed with my dog and turn out lights. I saw a shadow over my bed, which is right next to the window. Look out and see a thin figure slowly waving. Turn over and fall asleep. 3. Went to the state capitol for a club in HS. We're all riding home at 11 or midnight, tired. Therese, these 2 rest stops across from each other. Wake up shortly because we hit the exit and notice something in the light shrubbery beside the road. When we arrive, see the outdoor rest stops door to the men's restroom closed despite the lack of cars. Instructor asks if anyone needs to use the restroom. Thankfully everyone says no, maybe they saw it too.
Miscellaneous spook thread? Be me, great-grandfather liked to go hunting, have Rottweilers, I think, they're hunting dogs right, life is pretty good. Wake up one night in bed with my wife and feel heavy chest. Hear growl, oh shit. The Rottweiler is up on bed, right in my chest, inches away from my face and growling. One wrong move and I'm dead. Over the course of an hour slowly slide my hand, I do my bedside draw and retrieve my revolver/pistol. Carefully bring it up to the dog's head. Bang. And that's the story of how my great-grandfather stopped hunting.
I have a contribution. Be me. Used to bunk school with a group of mates to swim in the river nearby. Area with heavy footfall and such, so no problem or spook. Suddenly, one day, overnight, a camera is installed and boards are erected that going into the river is now a punishable offense. Footfall decreases significantly in the area. Dividing wall also appeared nearby which destroyed the path to the river where footfall was at max. Place gets consumed by overgrown shrubbery and non-endemic plants. 6 years later. School reunion and we decide to go back there. What used to be a riverbank with campers and tents and teenage hooligans and such now is a wasteland overgrown with trees. Very spooky, filled with discolored non-endemic species. Wall is half destroyed with missing bricks and strange marks almost like clawing with small length. Camera is obviously busted up. Sinkhole-like formation in the middle of the path over which there used to be a cobblestone way. Even though drunk, still decide to back off and go away. We were spooked that day. But being back in high school and being back with all the memories, we decided to foolishly be brave and explore the area. Next day, decide it's exploration time. 4 of us decided to explore the area further along. Be me. Take another friend's SUV and go to the place as far as the car would take us. Non-US bro, so had no guns. Had 2 machetes, 5 long sticks and 3 DIY spears with us. Also, some digging equipment like shovels and axes. In broad daylight, so took no flashlights. Leave the car with the equipment, food and water. Follow the old path we used to take as long as we could. Half a kilometer in, thick and tall grass blocks the way. Decide not to mess with it and take the lesser known route druggies used to take. Track back half a kilometer and venture on the second route. 2 kilometers into it, it's even more dilapidated with broken vegetation and waterlogging. Track back again to the car and decide to wait a bit. 9 a.m. now. Decide if this is happening, we need to take care of the grass. Use the older route and start cutting the grass with machete and knives. Look below and see what used to be an almost paved path has been consumed totally. Feels like it was mechanically destroyed. After about 3 hours of slicing through the grass, reach the river bank. See strange foaming and coloration near the river bank. Everything seemingly has been consumed by the forest within 6 years. Place smells eerie and very deathly. Decide to take a dip for old time's sake. Play around in the river for about 4 hours or so. Sun starts setting a bit. Decide to pack up and go back. Start hearing monkey-like noises in the thick forest that has developed nearby. Lived in this town for 18 years before. Never heard or seen a monkey here. Hightail off on our route back. See some cross tracks over our tracks. Carefully and with any arms we had out, briskly walk away from the creek. See car. See foot marks near the car. As expected, cars bust up and leaking fluids. Damage marks can be seen. Board ourselves up inside the car and call a friend's brother to come get us. Friend's brother comes to the spot in his SUV for 1 hour. We heard constant screeching of monkeys and other wildlife. Mind you, 6 years ago, this place used to be budding picnic spot with farmland all around. Also see the shining red eyes you expect to see at night in a forest. He comes in honking his car and flickering the lights. We get in, tell him the story and drive off. Once we reached the town, about 45 minutes away, he started talking. Told us how the place had gone from bad to worst. Also showed us a newspaper clipping from a year ago on 3 dead kids being found downriver from there. One dropped his phone there in the exact same spot we were in. To be fair, we experienced nothing out of the real except the footprints and busted car, but this place used to be busier than a theater daily 7 years ago and now is totally abandoned. Definitely spooky.
I'm not sure if you believe in the paranormal, but some weird shit goes on in my reservation. I've got 4 stories, though. 1. A boy in our town went missing for 1 year, had search parties for a week to find him, nothing, just disappeared. He's back in the same clothing he wore when he disappeared, didn't even look like he aged or had anything traumatic to him. Starts telling everyone he was captured by little people and taken to some unknown land, and that a man found him some kilometers away sitting on an island alone below freezing. 2. A man died at the hospital. Family members were saying little people, again, were trying to grab him and take him away, saying he was screaming and crying for an hour before going through cardiac arrest. The dude abused his daughter, assaulted some girl and some other things I don't know about. 3. Well, this one is pretty close to home, but not as bad as the next, I guess. My bro's friend told him a story he never told anyone else. He was reading the Bible when his girlfriend started mouthing off to him, saying not to read that fake garbage and whatnot, before going into the bathroom. He said he heard noises and what sounded like a struggle before the door flew open and she came out looking half dead, had black eyes and started speaking in tongues. He took the kid and darted out of there, consulted a priest and had an exorcism performed. After this, she went to Bible study group, got baptized, became a Christian and is now spreads the message in various churches and groups. She still lives in my town a few houses away. Same for the priest. He's a good man. 4. This one happened to my sibling. I remember receiving a call from my sister that she was being chased by a mob of little people in the town. We were on the phone with her when she was screaming and crying. She came home, told us about the shit she seen and her 2 friends confirmed it. Got more if you want. Weird shit in my town.
Please more.
Sure, fellow Anon, here's a few more I remember quite vividly. 1. We live in the reservation, as you might know, Native American territory, expansive, quite empty now that I think about it. My sister went camping alone for 2 weeks up by the point, as they call it, an island. No one goes there, everyone knows that it's haunted, and that about 4 to 5 days in, she hears a cough clear as day, and sees a man lighting a smoke about 150 or so feet out. She goes to check it out, nothing. There's no way he could have disappeared so quickly, since it was an empty grassland about a kilometer out. 2. This one is also by the point. Her friend went up there for a bonfire party. They were the last to be there and decided to pack up and leave in the morning. They heard footsteps circulating the tent for an hour or 2 straight. They stayed in there for 7 hours, until it finally stopped in the break of dawn, left the tent and gear there and just bounced. 3. Last one, I think. Friend took a drive by the point, decided to take a piss in the woods. Suddenly the vehicle turned off, decided to go back and turn it on. That's when he heard a man grumbling, looked down the path he came from and saw a suited man, like those men from the 1940s. Now this is the reserve, no way someone is wearing that a few kilometers in the bush, let alone at midnight. He was scared as shit, decided to jump in his car and drive off, with the man still standing there. The point is a long trail in our town that's quite haunted, with tons of folklore shit surrounding it. I wanted to go up there alone, but just the general eeriness of it creeps me the hell out. I can survive alone in the woods for weeks, but damn, that wooded area is too scary. Supposedly the devil is up there from what I heard, and that a man's cabin is still there when he traded his soul for riches or something long before I was born.
That first one sounds exactly like missing 411 cases. Some ascribe it to fairies, because some of the disappearances take place in boulder fields, which according to lore, fairies live in boulders. How exactly are these little people described? Because if it's just a bunch of munchkins from Oz, it's probably bullshit. But if it's little people like the borrowers, that's quite interesting. Since most cases of missing 411 don't remember anything, and the ones that do, don't mention little people, granted a lot are found dead, so that could be why. Do you know if the boy mentioned being fed berries or any kind of food? And yes, please continue, it's quite interesting.
Well, she told me that the figures stood at something like 2 or 3 feet tall, skinny as hell, didn't wear clothes, smelled of sulfur and looked decrepit. I don't know what she meant by that, but said they looked really outlandish. The boy on the other hand I don't think was fed anything. I'll ask about it and try to get back to you. However, a little girl was there in some dress with him, and that they were doing some ritual in a heavily foggy area in the woods, dancing around some circle on the ground and speaking an unknown language. He said they took the girl in a cave, and that's the last he saw of her. Creeps me the hell out thinking about it.
Sure, I have a couple. Once at our other house I was getting food and about to head back to my room. Just as I meet the hallway to my room I hear over my shoulder Tony. My name, like a stage whisper, right in my ear over my right shoulder. Bolt ass for my room. Second story was more recent. On the computer in the living room, digging around for a while before heading upstairs. Out of my left eye, out in the kitchen by my mom and dad's room I see a shadow figure. 6 feet tall, easy, built like a brick house. Turned my head to see it, gone. Went to investigate, no one there.
My college roommate Conway is gay. Every day he wakes up sweaty. He just smells awful too, around this the morning. Genuine rot, y'all. One day I ask him what the hell's up. Dude's sweaty even in the winter. He says skinwalkers. I'm like, okay. He just has nightmares about skinwalkers. Little weird but okay. A few months later he wakes up extra sweaty and I make a joke. You scared Conway, don't be? He just mumbles back at me, mimicking my words. I laugh it off and go back to sleep. A long time passes. Not scared yet. It's okay. You will be. WTF, WTF, WTF. Am requesting a new roommate in the spring.
Be Me, 13, 2006 homemade Ouija board. GIF. Nothing. Next might. Around 9:30. See two gray blobs. One is larger, looks like a head. Other is smaller, looks like a hand, floating just below other one. Floats into my room. This is no iFloater.jpg. Fast forward a few months. Try it again. Friend reports seeing yellow eyes. Tried to make it a quickie.
Alrighty, why not? First one is from me, it's paranormal in the spiritual aspect. I'll screen cap them in the instance that the thread migrates. Be Me, 18 or so. Hanging out at friend's house. House is lived in by my friend, his brother, and not long after another friend we were hanging out with that night ended up moving in. Decently old house, built in the 40s/50s. Has had two known deaths, an old man and the original roommate of friend's brother. Not certain if the old man had died violently, but ex-roommate sadly took his own life via a handgun. Had heard several spooky stories from my friends living in the house, willing to share, but pretty much brushed them all off due to not being there to witness it. This one night changed my perspective quite a bit though. A couple hours into hanging out we all ended up in friend's brother's room, playing vidya, watching YouTube, just having a good time. After a little while we hear loud rustling coming from the kitchen, not far at all from the bedroom. Nothing too crazy at first, brush it off as my friend's two cats playing loudly. Rustling turns to banging, as if someone is doing the dishes very aggressively. Nudge my buddy, he notices it but also says it's probably just the cats. I point out that the two cats are in the room with us, eyes fixed on the doorway. We are all now pretty alarmed due to the fact that all people and animals supposed to be in the house are all in eyesight. Thinking someone had broken in, Buddy goes to his room and grabs his P64 and loads around. Him and I decide to go investigate. The clanging from the kitchen is louder than ever. We get to the kitchen, and the noise just stops. No footsteps running away, door shutting rapidly, nothing. It just stops. All the dishes in the sink are still where they were left. Return to room pretty spooked. 10 minutes or so go by and the noise resumes for about an hour before finally stopping. It didn't seem like anything malicious, more like something that just wanted to be acknowledged. Maybe the spirit of their friend who had passed? I have several other stories from my friends that live there as well. For a couple years it was really weird in that house. My guess is that the energy just hadn't quite settled down yet. I was less of a skeptic after that night just because there was absolutely no scientific explanation for the kitchen sounds at all. Taking a break from spooky house for a second, this one was told to me by my grandmother, who is not very superstitious at all. I think you guys will like this one. This was a story leading up to the passing of my great-grandmother. Great-grandmother is nearing the end, she has gotten very old. Not senile or anything, but the start of the story takes place not long before her death. Great-grandmother visits my grandmother's house. They decide to take a picture of my great-grandmother and another family member. In the photo they were sitting on a bed on a decorative quilt. Eventually they go to get the photo developed. Photo developed fine, except my great-grandmother is not in it. Other family member is in the photo bright as day, but where my great-grandmother is there is only a slightly opaque white mist. She is still alive at this point, mind you. A few weeks pass and a black cat pops up at the house. For whatever reason it is affixed to only my great-grandmother. The cat loves my great-grandmother and she loves the cat, so they let it stay around but write down the name on the collar if needed. Not long after my grandmother passes and the cat just vanishes, can't be found anywhere. They decide to call up the local shelters to find out possible information on where the cat came from. Finally one of the shelters recognizes the name and description of the cat, but says the cat had died not long ago and are curious as to why they are asking. They mentioned that they had seen it around their house, but the shelter says that it would be impossible. The cat was dead. Soon after, the funeral is scheduled. My grandma is in attendance. She said as they read her name in the proceedings, the lights of the funeral home began flicking on and off rapidly, as if to tell a signal. Not sure how much of this was 100% true, but it is cozy and comforting to maybe think that the end isn't so bad, and that my great-grandmother is up there somewhere with her cat companion. This one was from a friend at work. I'll go back to Spooky House after this one. My friend, we'll call him Jay, goes to his buddy's house all the time. Older street of houses, mostly World War II era brick homes. His friend's grandmother used to live in the upstairs room before she died. They built it as a sort of apartment as they didn't want to put her in a home. Towards the end of her passing, she starts going batshit crazy. Claims demons are shaking her bead and that there's a death portal coming from the room's closet. They dismiss it as aging dementia and all is forgotten after she passes away. Years and years later, Jay is staying at the house, that room specifically. One night he wakes up to his bed shaking violently. Thinking it's just his buddy's huge dog, he starts yelling at it and goes back to sleep after the shaking abruptly stops. Learns the next day that the dog was locked peed downstairs the whole night. Nopes out and decides he isn't sleeping in that room anymore after his friend tells him his grandma always complained about something shaking her bed. Fast forward a good bit, they're 16 or so now. Jay and his friend are sitting on the roof sharing cigarettes as young hooligans do. Midway through the cigarette, Jay notices faint talking. He shuts his friend up for a second, thinking someone is sneaking around in the yard, very late at night. Friend notices the talking too, except it wasn't coming from the yard. It was coming out of a thin pipe exiting out of the roof, and traveling into the house. Nope. He presses his ear to the pipe to get a better listen. Sounds like 2 or 3 muffled voices talking over each other. Sounded like gibberish. It was so quiet but can make out multiple voices as well as occasional laughter. After a minute or two, the voices increase in volume, as well as numbers. Sounds like there are even more people talking over each other, although now it is very heavily distorted. Sort of radio static noise, making it hard to hear what they are saying. Jay and his friend are creeped the hell out and want to find out where these voices are coming from in the house. They trace the pipe back after a while of searching. The pipe leads to the closet in the room his friend's grandma lived in. The same closet that she always claimed had a portal and weird voices up until her death. Jay finally says screw this and never goes back to the house. His buddy continues to tell him weird happenings at the house for a couple years until he turns 18 and moves out. Yeah, not sure how true this is either, but I do believe that older people and children have a more solid connection to spooks.
B16. Always loved being outside, and going on trip fields. Dad is a soldier, doesn't stay home a lot. Summer comes, father knows I love adventuring. Offers me to go with him in a woods. Father's on bonding time.jpg, up we go, in some mountainous place near home. Place has plenty of critters, even bears. Dad is 6 feet tall and buff as hell, gives 0 damns. Plus has taking a gun. Time comes, we get all supplies ready. Sister sees it, whines about going too. Dad caves in and lets her come. 3 minutes walk in a woods, keeps complaining her feet hurt of course. 5 minutes in, Dad and me lose track of her. Cue a minute of walking around and screaming her name. Dad finds her, asks why she'd get off track. She stays silent. Whatever, we get walking again. Time passes, sister stopped complaining. Godly miracle.png. Dad seems worried somehow. Face sweaty. Ask him about it, he asks sister to gives us some privacy. Puts one of his hands on my shoulder, other on his gun. Quietly whispers, did we leave the oven on?
Creepiest encounter was seeing a lady in white. B10. Moved to a new house. Be sick and stay home from school. Dad leaves for work, so does mom. Hanging out in the living room. We have picture frames going along the stairs. Catch a glimpse of a lady with a long white dress walking down the hallway into my parents' room. Through the reflection of the picture frames. Freak the hell out but want to investigate. As I am walking up the stairs, the phone rings. Thanks God it's my parents probably checking up on me. JPEG. Caller ID shows my home phone number. WTF? We only have 2 phones, one downstairs, one in my parents' room. I nope the hell out and ignore the call. Phone rings twice again after. As soon as one call stopped ringing, immediately it began ringing again. Seriously freaked out but muster the courage to go upstairs. Walk into my parents' room, get the feeling I'm being watched. The phone was sitting on the bed with what looked like an indentation of someone sitting on the bed next to the phone. Run out. Never looked up at the picture frames when left alone ever again.
Be dad. Home filled with guests because bro passed away. Some relatives ask dad to phone the bus station. Dad goes to the bus station website and finds the phone number. Dials the number. 911 How can I help you? WTF.jpg. Apologizes and hangs up. Checks the number again. Types in the same number. The bus station lady picks up.
Live at home with family. For the last year been seeing stuff at home. Shadows shifting in the corner of my eyes, entering a dark room and seeing in eyes/faces for less than a split second. Weird shadows bundled in corners. Sometimes get spooked but brush it off as imagination, light tricks, bad eyesight, tiredness. Don't pay much mind. Last night me and brother enter a room at the same time. Just before I turn on the light he says with a tired voice, "Screw that. Turn on light and ask him what's wrong." Says he saw a face on a dark corner for a split second and he is tired of seeing stuff like that all the time. MFW, it was never just my imagination. I don't know if it just my house because I keep getting glances of shadowy silhouettes when I drive at night.
B14. Summer vacation. Have lifelong, frequent sleep paralysis. Trying to get to sleep on a really muggy night. AC doesn't reach my room, so I'm miserable and sweaty. Finally get to sleep well after 3 a.m. Just kidding, sleep paralysis. Frozen in bed, lying on my back with my head to the side. See shadow man at the foot of my bed. Eyes wide open, can't close them or breathe. Terror. Try to move, but can't. Shadow person shuffles around and starts speaking. Whir 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 whir. Same noise over and over, so loud it's like it's whispering right into both of my ears. Feels like it goes on for an hour. Snap out of it with a start. Start shaking around, just to make sure I'm awake. Spooked, but I manage to go to sleep anyway. Have a dream that I can't recall the next morning. Started my period in the middle of the night and pissed myself during my dream, so I wake up to a big bloody puddle around my ass. Wonderful experience, really.
Be like maybe 13 or 14. Just moved from a densely populated city to 60-acre farm in the middle of nowhere because parents wanted to for some stupid reason, so screw it. Having a housewarming party with group of friends from the city one afternoon. Walking around the property behind the house to explore and goof off. Start walking farther than I had tried to previous to that point with friends, had only been living there maybe a few days. Get to a clearing just past the bow of a hill and right outside where the woods started. Friends are running around and chasing each other with sticks or whatever stupid middle schooler shit. Call everyone together to prepare a trek into the woods, eager to see what interesting things might be around. I've always liked hiking despite having been a city slicker. Wait for the group to be collected before turning around to face the woods again, which at this point had been behind me while I waited for everyone to be ready. Walk a few yards towards the woods with my friends following behind me before noticing something that looks like an errant tree branch on the ground in front of us. Get closer and take notice of what it actually is. Entire back leg of what I'm guessing was a deer lying in the middle of this clearing. No signs of decomposition or coagulation of blood. Rip was fresh and had probably happened at the very least on the same day. Stand there staring at the leg sort of dumbfounded while trying to imagine how it got there. Hear friends behind me murmuring to themselves. Realize the leg probably freaks them out a lot more than me because hardly any of them have as much experience as I do with the wilderness and turn towards them to quell their paranoia. Yay, this is pretty strange, but it's honestly not that uncommon to find dead animal parts strewn about areas like this. I don't think this is really that big of a deal. Friend closest to me says Anon. Look and points ahead to what the rest of them are staring at. Look at where Hess pointing and see tons of animal parts strewn about the edge of where the woods begin. Mostly various organs like livers and stomachs or intestines. Some are just unidentifiable masses of flesh with tufts of fur still attached. Oh wow, okay. The few girls that were with us get pretty freaked out and decide they want to walk back to the house. One of my brothers cites the fact that the sun is starting to go down and escorts them back, but I think he was probably just also scared and didn't want to admit it. Me and 3 other brothers remain and we start our expedition. I walk ahead of the other 3 trying to look confident and fearless but secretly starting to feel really uneasy. A short distance from the entrance we find a small creek and start following along its bank. My friends are tossing rocks into the creek while I'm enjoying the native wildlife we keep running into, just like bugs and birds and shit. Feeling of uneasiness subsides slightly. Start to hear low moaning noise deeper into the woods. Friends don't seem to notice so I ignore it and keep following the creek while telling myself it's just some stupid animal being a dick and making creepy noises for no reason. We had been walking for a good 20 minutes or so when I notice a rancid smell like fermented shit. Walk around a bend of the creek and see a mass on the ground about 12 yards away. Get close to it and discover it's a completely mangled body of a large cow. Looks like it's been there for months. Bones in its legs are broken. Missing a lot of ribs. Face has been picked clean of all soft tissue. The low moaning noises have gotten loud enough at this point that my friends have finally noticed them. Decide that I don't want us to be stuck out there after dark and start to lead them back to the house. We get back and mess around playing PlayStation or whatever for the rest of the night. None of my friends come back to the farm after that. Fast forward to about a week later. Various animal parts near the entrance of the woods were gone the next day and I'd been spending the last few days trying to relocate the corpse we ran into next to the creek with no luck. Walk around in the fields by myself, still trying to familiarize myself with the area. Not so much scared by the situation from last week but more just confused. Nightfall finally comes and I start heading back towards the house. Walking around in the dark without a torch to the light of a full moon because I was a weird kid that liked doing that sort of shit. Make it to a field that had formerly been used as a plot for crops, can't remember what kind, by the previous farm's owners. Walk down it for a minute while peering through the darkness and letting my eyes adjust to the moonlight. Stop when I hear some scuffling noises not far ahead of me. Think for a second that my dog had gotten out and curse under my breath. Wait for a minute in silence, expecting him to run up to me while wagging his tail and smiling like a moron. Notice something moving across the field not more than 30 yards away. Not my goddamn dog. Very clearly see some really weird looking thing with pointed ears and an elongated snout crossing my path on all fours while moving in a way that reminded me of a deer trying to learn how to walk immediately after having been born. Only it doesn't look like a deer, more like a cobbled together toy of one. And it's enormous. It doesn't seem to notice me as I watch it slowly meander away. Wait for it to be out of sight and silently sprint back to my house. Walk in and see my dog quietly lying in his bed. Don't mention it to my parents and just go to my room. Fast forward another couple of days. I've completely stopped exploring the property at this point and taken to spending all of my time in the house. Sitting in the living room downstairs playing videos games at around 8ish at night. Mom pokes her head in and asks me to drag the garbage out to the curb. F me. Put on my shoes and go outside. The curb is a fair distance away from the house and I don't want to spend more time outside after dark than I need to, so I end up basically jogging to the curb while dragging this garbage can behind me on a gravel road, making a shit ton of noise and running back to my house as quickly as possible. Accomplish my chore without incident and continue playing video games. Get done playing games and retreat to my room for sleep. Have trouble dozing off and decide to light a candle and read a book. Bed is on the ground, hadn't bothered to set up the frame yet, pushed up against the walls that are closest to the outside on the opposite end of the house where my parents are asleep. Probably around 2 or 3 in the morning. Hear a light tapping at the window to the right and past the foot of my bed. Assume it's a tree branch or something and ignore it. Hear it again. Goddamn, this is a good book. Hear loud bang on the window that sounds like someone slapping it with an open palm. Get startled and think it's one of my parents outside spying on me, trying to get me to go to sleep. My grades had been starting to slip because I was staying up too late. Toss book off the side of the bed and blow out the candle. Sit in silence for a moment. Hear the tapping noise again. Get really scared. Reach over to the side of my bed to pick up a baseball bat I had lying next to it. Grip it for dear life, ready to beat something to hell and back. Sit in the dark for what felt like forever. Start hearing a dull scratching noise coming from behind the wall near the spot to the right of the window next to my feet. Shit. Listen helplessly as the noise starts to get louder. Like a lot louder. Sounds like there's someone dragging a collection of industrial grade rakes along the outside of my wall. Pull my feet up and sit in the fetal position, still gripping the bat. Realize the noise is moving along the wall, getting closer to where I actually was on the bed. Listen to it drag along my right side, around the corner, and finally hover directly behind my head. Sitting there in disbelief at how goddamn loud it is. Preparing myself mentally to die. Noise abruptly stops. Feel my heart about to pop out of my chest. Suddenly hear my dog barking, jump out of my bed still holding my bat. Run to find my dog pointed at the side entrance of the house, barking loudly and growling. Try to calm him down, she's going totally apeshit, hadn't ever seen him like that before. Mom comes downstairs to see what's up. I tell her that I think the dog saw a cat or something to kind of skirt the reality of what had just happened. Finally calm him down enough to get him to stop barking. Mom goes back upstairs. Petting my dog while he continues to growl pretty viciously while still pointed at the door, convince myself that whatever I had heard in my room must have been a raccoon or something stupid and that I should see if it's outside making my dog go crazy. Flip the switch for the side porch light and unlock the door, taking a breath before cracking it open slightly to peer outside. Look out to see a neatly placed severed pig's foot on the ground just within reach of the porch light. Shut the door and relock it. Sit at the door with my dog until morning. I lived there for another 10 years. After a while, I got over my astounding fears of the forests and started exploring the property again, but never went anywhere without my dog or stayed outside past dark. I'd find weird animal parts in random places from time to time and just got used to it after a while. Every now and then, my dog would start barking at something and I would take that as his signal that we needed to go back inside. He lived for a pretty damn long time, like 15 years, but eventually died of old age. Within a week of that happening, I had moved out and gone to the opposite end of the country. I really miss him.